What makes us us? Is it the memories we hold close, the moments that define who we are? Or is it something more elusive, something that binds us even when we're apart? Welcome to another episode. Today's story takes us on a journey through the heart of Silicon Valley, where technology intertwines with human emotions in ways both thrilling and treacherous. So sit back, relax, and let's delve into this captivating narrative. Our story begins not in a caliph's court, but in the glass and steel atrium of a Silicon Valley tech giant, Ethelred Corporation. Their logo, a stylized tree, symbolized growth, connection, roots. Irony was not lost on David Chen. Their latest project, the Hera Apple, was a wellness device, a sleek silver sphere promising to optimize sleep, mood, and energy. But beneath the glossy exterior, there was a fault line of code, a bug that would disrupt not just the lives of its users, but the very fabric of existence. Our protagonist is not a humble merchant, but David Chen, a lead data architect at Ethelred. His life was a binary code of order and control. At work, he was a virtuoso of algorithms, orchestrating data symphonies with elegant efficiency. At home, his smart home in Cupertino was a shrine to design minimalism. Everything from the temperature to the lighting was calibrated to perfection. Even his marriage to Lena, a landscape architect, was a well-oiled machine of habit and routine. It wasn't until their son, Leo, was born that a variable was introduced into the equation, a splash of vibrant chaos that painted their monochrome world in color. But as Leo grew, so did Lena. Her zest for life became a stark contrast to David's ordered world. And as she blossomed, David noticed cracks appearing in their foundation. Lena's laughter was less frequent, her touch less lingering. Her restlessness manifested in the silence of their perfectly designed bedrooms, in the untouched canvases of her art studio, in the overgrown wilderness of their garden. Then, one evening, as Lena sat scrolling through a curated social feed, an advertisement flickered across her screen. It showcased a perfect family, a manicured lawn, a beaming mother, and a laughing child. The scene was so jarringly domestic that Lena paused, a sudden pang in her chest. She wanted that life, that effortless joy. It wasn't until later, after the kids were asleep, that David understood the gravity of this longing. "Lena, why don't you ever want to connect with friends? Why do you spend all your time alone in your studio?" Lena looked up, startled. "I do spend time with friends. I do things. I just haven't been happy lately. And I feel like everyone around me is happy, like they have it together. I don't know how to fix it." She looked away, ashamed. "I thought maybe I was just burnt out. Maybe if I bought that new XYZ painting software, it would help." "And what if it doesn't?" David asked softly. "Then what? What if nothing helps?" she whispered, tears glistening in her eyes. He pulled her into a tight embrace, the weight of her sadness anchoring him to the present. In that moment, he vowed to fix it. To him, she was a complex equation to be solved, a program to be debugged. He didn't realize he was trading logic for love. He didn't journey to Basra, he called in favors. He leveraged his professional clout, called a board member's assistant for whom he'd once fixed a critical security flaw, and pulled every string in his network. Within 48 hours, he had secured a set of 3 Hera apples from an executive pre-release batch. He presented them to Lena that night, a small white box containing the gleaming, sensor-packed orbs. Her face lit up with a joy he hadn't seen in years. It was, for a glorious moment, enough. Weeks passed. The apples seemed to help. Lena's mood charts on their shared wellness app showed marginal improvement. Then, disaster. David was in a high-stakes merger meeting when his phone buzzed with an alert from his home security system, a motion sensor in the backyard, triggered during a time the house should be empty. He pulled up the live feed on his watch. His screen showed a fleeting, horrifying image. A man, dressed in the uniform of a popular gig economy delivery service, slipping through the back gate. and in his hand he held an unmistakable sleek metallic Hera apple. David's blood ran cold. The code of his life had a glitch, a critical bug. He excused himself, his mind a whirlwind of corrupted data. He raced home, his reasoning overwritten by a primal panic. He found the house empty. The box in their bedroom was open. One apple was gone. His evidence was not a knife and a body by the river, but a digital trail. He checked Lena's location sharing. She was at the park. He frantically scrolled through their connected credit card statements. There it was, a charge from an upscale hotel downtown from just 2 days prior. A hotel for which he had no context. The algorithm of suspicion, once initiated, began to populate with devastatingly plausible data. Her improved mood wasn't from the apple, it was from an affair. The delivery man wasn't a thief, he was a messenger, returning a token to his lover. By the time Lena returned home, cheerful from her walk, David was waiting in the kitchen, the empty box on the counter between them like an accusation. "Where is it?" he asked, his voice dangerously quiet. "Where's what, honey?" she said, her smile fading. "The apple. One is missing." She looked genuinely confused. I don't know. Maybe Leo took it to show a friend? I'll text him." But David was no longer listening. He cited the credit card charge. He described the security footage. He presented his theory, each piece of digital evidence locking into place with the terrible, elegant logic of a flawless code that leads to a catastrophic error. Lena's denials were desperate, illogical, human. They were no match for his cold, digital proof. "David, no. I can explain the hotel. It was for my mother. She came to town to surprise you for your birthday. The apple? I don't know. It must have been stolen." But he had already passed the point of listening. The narrative of betrayal was complete. In a blind rage, not with a knife, but with his hands, he silenced the glitch in his perfect system. The silence that followed was broken only by the hum of the smart fridge. The aftermath was a media circus. Tech Titan murder. Silicon Valley crime of passion. David, numb and shattered, was arrested. The case, built on his own digital footprint, the security video, the credit card history, his frantic search history on his phone for signs of infidelity, was overwhelming. He was the perfect perpetrator, convicted by the very data streams he had dedicated his life to mastering. The caliph in this tragedy was not a wise ruler walking in disguise, but a tenacious old-school journalist named Anya Sharma. Her beat was the underbelly of Silicon Valley where secrets festered. She was doing a deep dive on the culture of secrecy at Ethelred Corp and stumbled upon the oddity of the Hera apples. Her source was not a frightened little boy, but a hacked internal database. She discovered that the entire first batch of Hera apples had a critical hidden flaw, a firmware bug that caused them to sporadically record and upload corrupted data to the cloud. Ethelred, fearing a scandal and a stock dip, had quietly retrieved them. The executive pre-release batch was a cover story for the recall. Anya tracked the serial numbers David had acquired. Her investigation led her not to a slave in a marketplace, but to a low-level operations manager at the gig economy company, a man named Miguel. Ethelred had hired him through the app to discreetly collect the faulty devices from a list of high-profile clients who couldn't know about the recall. David Chen was on that list. On the day of the murder, Miguel's task was to collect one apple from the Chen residence. He'd arrived, found no one home, and saw Leo in the backyard. The boy, proud of his mother's cool new gadget, had been showing it to a friend. He'd handed it to the delivery man, as instructed by the app's notification on his mother's phone, which he'd been using to play games. Miguel, in a hurry, scanned the apple, completed the job, and left. He had no idea of the cataclysm he had inadvertently set in motion. Anya published her story. The truth exploded into the digital stratosphere. The real tragedy was not a malicious act, but a series of sterile, automated processes colliding with human emotion. A corporate cover-up, a flaw in the code, a gig worker algorithmically dispatched to perform a secret task, a child following instructions on a screen, and a husband who trusted data over his wife. David was exonerated, released into a world permanently scarred by his own failure of faith. The victory was hollow. The justice system had corrected its error, but it could never correct his. He had not been defeated by a villain, but by the modern condition itself. The illusion of knowledge through data, the ease of constructing a damning narrative from digital breadcrumbs, and the tragic erosion of trust in the messy, illogical, and beautiful complexity of human love. The three apples were never symbols of life-saving medicine or simple desire. In the end, they were symbols of a poisoned gift. Technology that promised connection and delivered alienation. Data that promised truth and delivered a lie, and a perfect shiny surface that hid a fatal flaw within. The Caliph in the original tale wept for the injustice. David Chen weeps in a silent, smart house, a free man serving a life sentence of regret, a cautionary tale for an age where the evidence of our eyes and our apps is never quite enough to reveal the truth of the human heart. Thank you for joining us today. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to leave a thumbs up, subscribe, and share with your friends. Until next time, stay curious and keep asking questions.